Hello everybody and welcome back to Evolving Vibes, the community for witches, pagans, spiritualists, and everybody in between. Welcome back to the channel. We've been growing steadily and I have been super busy with transferring the old shop into the new building and the new shop in Westport, Mass. And this past week we had the grand opening. There were so many things to do and so much that I had to help out with that I just didn't have the time. And when I did have the time, I definitely didn't have the energy to put a video together. But I've been working on a lot of ideas and a lot of plans, and I am going to be putting a bunch more videos out in the near future, starting with this video now, right? So for this video, what I thought I would do is talk a little bit about some tips and ideas for people that are actually just getting into paganism, getting into witchcraft, getting into themselves. I've been dealing with a lot of people in recent times in readings, as well as my personal life, who are just starting to open up about this spirituality, about who they are spiritually, and where they're going. And so I thought this would be a great time to bring up in this video some ideas, some tips, some tricks, whatever you want to call them, into putting your practice together and getting you spiritually where you want to be. And having fun along the way, because that's the biggest portion of it, right? We gotta have fun doing the things that we do and enjoying who we're becoming. Let's enjoy the path, let's enjoy the trip, let's enjoy the journey, not just try to rush to that destination. So let's get started in talking about some ideas, some tips, and some things that you can put into your life to help you in your practice in every day and in every part. So I think the first tip that I have is get out there and try new stuff. Step out of your comfort zone. Read some books. But let's talk a little bit about getting out of our comfort zone. And first and foremost, that's start trying new things. Try some things that you don't normally do. Try some things that you haven't even thought about trying. In other words, don't be fearful. This is all about practice. This is all about us conducting our own practice, figuring out what works for us and what doesn't work for us. So that all being said, it's all about trial and error. When we make a mistake, it's still a learning experience. It's still something that shows us this is not what worked for this or for us, so let's try something new. So when we talk about figuring out some things to try, look at divination. What works for divination for you? Try scrying. Try playing around with tarot cards. You don't have to read a tarot book to learn how to read tarot cards. You can do it intuitively. There's a lot of different methods and means of doing it. And there's a ton of videos on YouTube that are huge quality that can help you along the way. Same thing goes for scrying. Same thing goes for any other form of divination, including tea leaves. So don't be shy and don't be fearful about getting out there and trying new things and seeing what works for you. I do have my notes here, so I'm going to be looking down from time to time because I don't want to miss any points that I put together. Figuring out moon phases. What moon phases work for you? Putting spells together. Like for me, I generally use the new moon as well as the full moon for creating a lot of different materials. When I want to create my oils, I use the new moon or the full moon. Certain spells I'll do with full moon, and certain spells I'll do at full moon. Same thing goes with putting intentions out there. Why? Because that's what resonates with me. That's what really says yes to me. Can I use waxing in the waning moons? Certainly can. Have I? Sure have. So there's nothing wrong with any aspect of it, but get out there and start playing around with the moon phases. Start doing things on certain moon phases just to get practice in, just to see how it works for you, and just to see when it works for you, right? That's just as important. Maybe astrology tickles your fancy. I've never been much with astrology. mostly because it just doesn't resonate with me. Doesn't mean I don't understand it, I do, but it's just not something that I use in my practice. That's just me. Maybe astrology is going to be the forefront of your practice. If it is, great. You found something that works with you. And the same thing goes for astronomy. Um, Maybe astronomy is something that you love using. Maybe you like incorporating it into tarot readings and into divination. And if you do, I applaud you. I think that's great. If it resonates with you, run with it. That's the most important thing. Herbs. I use a lot of different types of herbs. I use them for spell work. I use them for oils. I use them for teas. I use a lot of different things. Why? It really resonates with me. There are certain herbs I use more than other herbs. I use a lot of sage, but I also use a lot of rosemary. I use a lot of thyme. I use a lot of nettle. So it's all relative to what really says yes to you and how you want to work with it. But definitely get out there and start discovering some herbs. Maybe start planning, because of it being springtime, a wonderful little herbal garden for yourself. Get out there and start playing around with it. Another thing that really I suggest trying, if you haven't done already, is meditation. You've heard me say that a million times. I'm doing now guided meditation twice a month at the shop. I'm getting a lot of great results out of it, both for me as well as the people that are actually participating in the guided meditation. Going forward, what I'll be doing is recording those guided meditations, and I'll actually be dropping them inside of my playlist that I use for guided meditation and hypnosis on the channel, so you guys can play around with it as well and try it out. But meditation doesn't have to be complicated. It can be. It's all up to you. But it doesn't have to be. So get out there and try what works for you. It can be nothing more than just listening to music, clearing your head, and grounding yourself. And it can be as much as you want to make it. But definitely get out. If you haven't already, give it a shot. The same thing goes with studying. People look at studying like, oh, I don't want to do any part of that. But the reality of it is, you're not studying to learn, you're just studying to see what actually resonates with you. There are going to be certain topics as you start reading books about witchcraft that are going to resonate. And there's going to be certain topics as you read about witchcraft or paganism that are not going to resonate. Leave what resonates behind you and take and run with whatever really jives and works with you. And the same thing goes with stones, working with stones. You can get very specific crystals and work with. I do have some all over my house, but you can also be walking along the beach and just finding a rock that really says yes to you, or a stick, and taking that in and working with it. Like I showed you before, the wand that I use is simply a stick that found me on Mount Washington. It became very magical to me, and now it's a really strong cornerstone of my magic. So long story short, get out there and try new stuff, because that's how you're going to expand your horizon, expand your intellect, and expand your practice. One of the other big things that I continuously talk to people about, and I try to talk them down from their anxiety, is what if I make a mistake? So what? If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. You learn what no longer works in that specific sense. But a mistake is not going to cause a catastrophic event. It's not like that. If we make an error, the spell's not going to work out, or the spell's not going to be exactly what we want it to be. It is what it is. We learn from that and we move forward. But mistakes are all about learning, and as we make mistakes, we learn from that, and then we start building off of that. So I've made tons of mistakes in my life and in my practice, and I've learned from each and every one of them. I don't generally tend to repeat them. I generally tend to learn, note, and then move on and try something new. So don't be shy and don't be fearful about making mistakes. Magic is a tool. It is not a miracle. It's still going to be about your intentions and what actions you put into play with your intentions. If I had to say one of my biggest mistakes I've learned from is putting the intentions out there with the spell work, but not putting enough action into that intention after the spell work. That's been generally what's caused a lot of my spells to not go as far as they should have gone or could have gone. Simply me not putting the action forward and putting that energy into that intent, into the universe, to actually get exactly what I wanted out of it. And I would venture to say, if you say you're not very successful sometimes with your spell work or with your intentions, that is probably where the fault lies. You're not putting enough action into it after you've put that intention out into the universe. But don't be shy about making mistakes. I promise you, you're going to learn from them, you're going to grow from them, and your practice and you will be all the more stronger and better because of mistakes. Another thing to consider with your practice and with paganism, with witchcraft in general, is rules. All right. First, there are no rules, just like Fight Club. Quite literally, the only rules that should be involved in your practice are your own rules. What you put together and what you say are the lines that you cross and the lines that you don't cross. It's called basic boundaries. You put your own boundaries together for your own practice and what you want to do. It's your preference. You get to make the choices. You get to make the practice. It's yours to make. Use your intuition and trust your intuition when you're deciding where you want to go with your practice. That's the most important thing to consider. Speaking of intuition, really focus on and get to know your intuitive side. That is your spirit self. That's where the facts all lie. And that's where you're not going to be led down any wrong path or direction. Your intuitive side is the most important thing that you can follow and that you can actually develop and listen to. You don't have to be a psychic to be intuitive. We all have intuition. It's up to us, though, to really block out the ego, which is the conscious mind, the masculine energy, and listen to our intuitive side. How often, and you can think about this yourselves, how often have you turned around and knew deep down inside something you wanted to do or didn't want to do? However, you let your conscious mind actually talk you out of it. Maybe it's because of learned behaviors, maybe it's because of social mores, whatever it might be. You turned around and didn't listen to your intuition, and what happened? It came back and bit you in the butt. So all of that being said, trust your intuitive side. Work on your intuitive side. The more you exercise your intuition and your third eye, the stronger it becomes. I promise you it will be life-changing. You can do meditation to help actually make it stronger. You can just make it stronger by listening to it throughout your day, allowing yourself to give yourself, that inner self, the voice that you need to have and that you deserve to have. And as you do so, you're going to see changes. Mark my words. Tell you what, starting tomorrow, give yourself 30 days of practicing your intuitive side and listen to your intuition. And then 30 days from now, come on back, leave me an email, leave a comment, let me know how that worked out for you. I promise you it's going to make things so much better in your life. Just do it. Another thing to consider is our cornerstone of what we are. Getting out and worshiping nature. Nature is our essence. The nature is who we are. So when you're feeling off, you're feeling sad, you're feeling emotions that aren't helpful to you, get outside in nature. Walk around on the grass, walk by the beach, go for a walk in a forest. Wherever you feel at home at in nature, go out there and celebrate it. You will feel better. You will change your perspective. When you change your perspective, you change your reality. So I promise you, getting out there, enjoying nature, and more importantly, worshiping nature will be dramatic for you. Wicca has the wheels of the year. That is all about celebration of the seasonal changes and celebrating the bounties that come from each season and acknowledging how strong and how magical and how wonderful nature actually is. So get out there, celebrate nature, and worship nature. Another thing to consider is ignoring people that I like to call spiritual rapists. And what does that mean? It's that person that just forces their spirituality on you. They tell you things that they want you to know. And they almost like bully you spiritually with you could be standing there not doing anything. They come up and start doing a code reading on you, telling you all about your energy. Like, excuse me, I didn't ask you for any of this. Back the fuck up. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not listening to it. And you're not very accurate on top of it all. Same thing goes with, oh, you must have this stone. Oh, you must use this color. Oh, you must do this on the vernal equinox. No, you don't have to do anything on anything. If you want to do a full moon ritual, have at it. If you want to hang out on a full moon and just lay in bed and relax, have at it. That can be your ritual. So don't listen to these people that try to tell you that they're spiritual experts and tell you exactly how you need to practice your life. As I said earlier, I've been involved in many a Facebook group that I've walked out of because of people just like that want to say, no, you can't do this because if you do, you're going to blah, blah, blah. Oh, you can't hex people because if you do, blah, 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 rules of three. If you believe in it, great. If you don't believe in it, don't listen to them. So I always tell everyone, if someone's pushing this spirituality down your throat and someone's trying to dictate how you need to practice, they're not for you. Get out of their orbit and find people that resonate with you and your vibe. Leave the rest behind. Another thing to consider and to keep in mind is this is a practice. This is all about us continuing to grow, continuing to increase our frequency, to increase our vibe, to grow and move forward. So what does that mean? It means that we have to continue to learn. Now, we can learn from books, we can learn from YouTube, we can learn from so many different resources today versus 15, 20, 30 years ago. That being said, continue to grow, continue to learn, but most importantly, continue to learn about yourself. Hi, Coco, I'm right here. Continue to learn about yourself and who you are, what works for you, what resonates with you, and what you want to make the cornerstone of your practice to be. The other big tip to remember, if not the final big tip to remember, is simply do you. Be you. Take your practice and make it your own. Some people always ask this question on Wicca versus witchcraft, yada, yada, yada. So let me just be straight up and forward. I have no issue with Wicca. Wicca actually brought witchcraft to the forefront of society back in the 50s when it was actually founded. To that, nothing but applause, because that made all of everything that we do, the paganism, witchcraft, witches, all of that pop more so of the mainstream. And it gave us a lot of the freedoms that we have today, such as opening up the store like I have, where we have, a lot of magical supplies, a lot of other things, but also, like I said, a lot of magical supplies. Having psychic fairs, having, what I'll be doing this week on Friday the 13th is I'll be reading at an event that's called Witches Night Out, which is all about witches getting together, vending, shopping, reading tarot, all sorts of fun stuff. It's a pretty large thing in the Massachusetts, Rhode Island area. Without Wicca and without that actually being founded, a lot of what we do now would not be mainstream, it would be shunned upon still. So don't get the idea that I'm anti-Wiccan. I'm not. I really embrace them, and I feel if that works for someone, that resonates with them, great, go for it. But don't be shy about being you. The one thing with Wicca that keeps me a little bit further from it is the fact that it's also a religion. It's an organized religion, just like Catholicism, Christianity, all these religions. And like everything else in life, there's good and bad in everything. I personally don't subscribe to organized religion, and there are very specific parts of Wicca that I don't subscribe with, like the rules of three, the not harming of others, even though they may harm you, that sort of thing. I don't subscribe to that. But there are things from Wicca that I resonate with, like the Wheel of the Year. So I take what works for me, what resonates with my spirit, and I leave the rest behind. I don't criticize it. I don't shun it. I just don't practice it. So that's what I mean about you doing you. Are there Christian witches? Absolutely there are. Are there Catholic witches? Yes, there are. Just because you're practicing the celebration of nature, the celebration of the earth, that doesn't mean you still can't be Christian or you still can't be Catholic. You can still be you. It's all up to you and what resonates and what you want to run with. I use Psalms for spells. You know, I have a Bible right in my closet right back there. And what do I do with it? I read it because I find it interesting and intriguing. But I also utilize it, specifically Psalms, to be able to do spell work. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing from taking bits and pieces from other practices in other religions to make them your own. So my biggest advice to you is to certainly you be you. Practice what works for you. Leave the rest behind. Don't be all soft-skinned about criticism, because I've been in a lot of witchy groups and I've left a lot of witchy groups because no one should make anyone feel bad about their practice. If you want to work on doing spell work on very specific days, do it. There doesn't have to be a correspondence with that. If you want to use a red candle to do protection or to do money manifestation, do it. There doesn't have to be a corresponding color to work with. So you see where I'm going with all this? Most everything that you do can be yours and yours alone, and run with it. So I wanted to make a quick and relatively short video because my last video was so very long, and I know I like alternating them just a little bit. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about your own personal practice, if anything that I said in this video actually resonates with you, and in general, just let me know how you guys are doing. We're past 880 subscribers now. We're actually growing. We're approaching 900. And I cannot thank you guys enough for all of your support, for being a part of this community and making this so magical of a journey for both me as well as for everyone out there. And until next time, please be sure, watch one of these two videos below. Help push that algorithm up, grow the YouTube community even further, and certainly check out for me on TikTok. I am on there now as well. And let me know what you guys think about my reels and my shorts that I've been putting out there with the tarot card draw of the day. Let me know if you've been watching them, what you think, if you want to see something differently. I generally don't speak on them. I just sort of like hold the card up, put it down, and then put into text everything about that. Let me know what you think about that. All right, until next time, as always, please be safe, be well, and be blessed.